Okay, so this would be on our bulk gauge process sheet. This would be step number 2. I'm going to do and show you the layout for describe the lines that are going to give us the intersections of the hole locations off of the hole location chart. Okay, if you look on the drawing, there's a what we call a datum indicator or a datum symbol that shows X for this bottom feature or this bottom edge, and then the far left edge in this view is the Y datum. All the dimensions are coming off of Y dimension this side to the right, or the X datum from the bottom going up. So, and you can see the corresponding number from hole location. For example, hole location 1 is a quarter 20. It shows quarter 20, this first bottom left hole here. In X is a dimension of 0.312. That X location dimension is also shown here on this front view. And then also the Y location is shown from the Y datum to the center of this quarter 20 hole as 531. So if you notice, the Y location is the same dimension for all these 5 holes coming off the Y datum, but the X location is different for these holes. Now 1 through 5, but again it repeats on the right side for holes 6 through 10, with the center mark here, the quarter 20, 312, going up. The next one is 5/16, 18, and that is a value of 781. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dike them, take my dike-em out, and I'll have this again over by my toolbox at somewhere. I'm going to use the surface plate. I traditionally would not use this as a workbench, but for the video demo purposes I am. I'm going to dike-em this with this. It stinks really bad. It smells horrible. So I'm going to make sure this is Dike-em brand layout fluid, steel blue is the color. And it smells really bad, but I only need a little to cover one side, and it evaporates and dries really quickly. So before I've started this, of course, I've deburred the part off of the machine, and I'm doing this process as the second operation after I've faced one side. This other side, it has a sawed edge. So from that I'm going to determine which side is which. This is the finished side. It's completely deburred. I'm going to then put this on my angle plate. My surface plate's been cleaned. My angle plate's clean. And I'm going to take my height gauge, and with the carbide tip scribe, I'm going to loosen both these set screws for my adjusting nut and my vernier. I'm going to check that the 0 mark reads 0 when this is clean and set all the way flat to the table. And then I'm going to go up to the first dimension hole location in X. This is my datum X with the standing lengthwise. I'm going to go to 312, so I'm going to make sure I'm going to go to the 0, tighten the adjusting nut, and then go to where the 12 lines up on the vernier, which is right there. And then I'm going to lock the vernier. I'm going to hold my part against my angle plate, and I'm going to scribe this line. And hopefully you can see as I rotate it, there's a scribe line here. So that's the 312. I'm going to continue on to the next location is 781. If I can't see, I have a magnifying glass. I can actually set this down very gently, lock the adjusting nut, and make sure this is, and adding, using my knowledge of the vernier scale to make sure that's accurate. I can also very quickly, I'm scribing the second line, the 781. I can also pretty quickly double check that I'm using the vernier scale correctly by a quick check is just to use my scale here and go, okay, that looks accurate. But I can also use the caliper and either lock it on location based on the caliper or measure from this edge to the line with my caliper and check that reading. So this is the two lines. From here, I'm going to make sure I'm orienting the part correctly. If this was the part on my drawing, standing straight up, I've done this 312, 781, continue on doing 5 lines in this direction, and then making sure I orient this direction and not the other direction. From here, I'm going to do, there's actually only 2 lines here for the Y location is from the bottom, checking this is 531 thousandths, and then the next line up is 1 inch, 468 thousandths. So this is the scribe operation for our bolt gauge. This process we actually do not need to do, and even if I were running this on a conventional machine, I probably would not do this. We do this in this class so you get to understanding the layout process. Sometimes you'll do layout processes on equipment out in the field where you don't have, you might be using a scale or a ruler or some other thing. Occasionally you'll do it here. But more often than not, we're dependent on the micrometer dials and the edge finding to get the location for the whole locations off of our drawing. And that's what we could do on this. We don't necessarily need to do a layout for these whole locations, but on your very first project, the layout does show us when we drill, when we center drill and drill for these holes, these threaded holes, it does confirm visually as we're doing that process that our edge finding process using the micrometer dials on the table feed, that is done accurately. So this is going to just show us that our edge finding is done accurately.